Now, Rhema Bible Church founder Ray Macaulay is being commemorated at a memorial service in Randburg, north of Johannesburg this evening. The 75-year-old pastor died at his home, surrounded by his loved ones, on Tuesday last week. Macaulay founded Rhema Bible Church in South Africa in 1979. We cross live now to senior reporter Criselda Lewis, who joins us from there. Criselda, very good evening to you. A lot of familiar faces taking to the podium this evening, sharing their memories of a man who was truly inspirational. I mean, we heard the likes of anti-apartheid activist Tokyo Sexwale speaking about the memorable big steaks that he ate in Macaulay's house.
All right, Paul, so much has been said about the legacy of the late Pastor Ray Macaulay today. So many paying tribute to him at the very pulpit where for so many years he inspired a great nation, not just, of course, here in South Africa, but internationally as well. We've seen quite a number of pastors, both from South Africa and across or abroad, basically speaking about the indelible mark that he made towards South Africa and how he went on to inspire them as well. One of the speakers, of course, you'd know, ANC veteran Tokyo Sexwale, basically saying that, you know, Pastor Ray Macaulay was someone who basically pushed them towards the poor. At the center of everything that he did, the people were never to be forgotten. Always ask questions about what was to be done for the most destitute, what was to be done for the poorest of the poor. So many you would have heard over the past couple of days talking about the legacy of this great man behind the pulpit, but also what he had done for those who were downtrodden, those who were poor, those who simply had no hope left in them. He was that source of hope for many, but as others would have said on the podium, he didn't draw the congregation towards himself, but he drew the congregation to God. One of the people that will speak greatly about Pastor Ray Macaulay and the contribution that he made towards a smooth and peaceful transition to democracy in this country is Reverend Frank Chikane, and he joins me live now. Rev, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you giving us your time. There's so much to be said about Pastor Ray Macaulay, in particular behind the pulpit, but also what he did for South Africa. We also heard Ntate Tokyo Sexwale talk about the support that was given to prisoners at the time for them not to lose hope that they would return to a country and change around its fortunes.
Yeah, well, you know, my experience about Pastor Ray Macaulay was during the most difficult times in this country, in the mid-80s, late 80s. That's when I met him. And when I met him, he was looking for answers, because preaching the gospel in a conflict situation where there was war, where there was conflict, just didn't make sense. And he wanted to understand the challenges we were facing, and he made an arrangement to come and meet me. I was the General Secretary of the Council of Churches at that time. And we sat together. Remember, he's charismatic, evangelical, yes. Pentecostal. I come from that tradition. And he wanted to talk to me, and I'm General Secretary of the Council of Churches. We are in the heat of the struggle, the war. And he was very humble, open, and listened. And many people say that meeting we had changed him so greatly, and he became part of the solution in the society, became part of the engagement with the leadership in the society. And we don't have time to talk about all of those things, but we had to fly to the Ciskei together. When there was a crisis in the Ciskei, people were killed, there was conflict, and we went together there to go and talk to Gozo, who was the leader of that Bantu stand at that time. And that tells you how much transformation Pastor Ray went through from that conversation we had to the type of role that he played in the nation.
And Rev, just before we wrap up, that came at great cost, and we heard about that this evening, where he was vilified for the stance that he took. touted as a sellout because he, at the time, he spoke the truth about what was taking place. And in actual fact, I think it was at the Truth and Reconciliation where he warned or called out white South Africans to say, you're actually being misled by the apartheid government.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't take that. It was like a Damascus experience. He couldn't change the way he changed, began to talk about justice, began to talk about reconciliation, began to talk against racism. I mean, the white members of his church, of course, wouldn't understand that. The white population in the country couldn't understand that. But he took a stance, and he really weathered the storms. He really made sure that what he believed God was saying to him actually can be done and should be done. And he continued to do so. I mean, I experienced the same thing. In fact, I got suspended from my church for a long time, 9 years to be more precise. So as we waged that struggle, there were people who did not understand why it had to be done. Today, of course, they value that history. They now know the truth. Even the leaders in my church say so. And we thank God that God has carried us through, but there was a price to be paid.
Reverend Frank Chikane, thank you very much, and we do appreciate you waiting for us. We had a bit of a delay. Thank you very much indeed. We do appreciate it. God bless you too. Thank you very much indeed, Reverend Frank Chikane, and certainly, he had been there with the late Pastor Ray Macaulay at a very critical time in South Africa. Pastor Ray Macaulay being vilified during that time for calling out white South Africans and the apartheid government at the time for the atrocities against black people in South Africa. You can only but imagine during that time. And as we've heard over the past couple of days, he certainly did not sit on the sidelines. He didn't only preach from the pulpit, but beyond the pulpit, a number of politicians, as we've heard, would be wrapped around the knuckles, if I can, if he believed that certain things were not going well in the country. He certainly did speak truth to power, and at the center of that was the church, but he did believe that the church had a greater role to play outside of the pulpit as well in fostering political and social change. All right, I'm going to cross now to my colleague Puseletso, who's going to speak to some of the congregants who were greatly inspired by the late Pastor Ray Macaulay. Good night from me.
Thank you so much, Griselda. We are coming to you live just outside in Rhema Bible Church here in Randburg, Johannesburg, whereby the memorial service for Ray Macaulay has just been wrapped up. As you know that Ray died last week on Tuesday at the age of 75 while at his home surrounded by his families. But with me right now I have Austabang, who is the member of this church, the Rhema Bible Church. Well, Austabang, thank you so much for your time. Maybe if you can tell us, how do you think Pastor Ray would like to be remembered as?
I think Pastor Ray was a man who spoke about grace. I think that his mission was purely about the salvation of Jesus Christ. He lived for that. He is all about saving lives. And I think that his most important thing is to be remembered about a man who worked to actually help to fulfill the gospel of God and actually ensure that people are saved and come to know Jesus and have a relationship with him.
Now, how are you going to remember Pastor Ray?
Pastor Ray had a big influence in my life. I mean, I came to the church when I was 20 years ago, and it was the first time I actually listened to a pastor speak about grace. I will never forget how he spoke about the grace of God and how there is no condemnation and the importance of salvation. That for me is something that one can take through in life and outpour it to other people. And I think that outpouring it to others and teaching people the same concept of the gospel is something that I'd always be grateful for and remember Pastor Ray for.
Well, Tabang, I understand that there was a church service here on Sunday. Maybe tell us how was the mood or the feel of the church service, which was the first church service since the passing of Pastor Ray.
Okay. So it was very somber. I think it was a moment of reality for us as a church. It was very difficult, but I think in the same stride, because of how well Pastor Ray has done, I think everybody can attest to the fact that he ran his race and he lived up to the faith. It was also reassuring that he also was putting Pastor Joshua in this position in time. There was a comfort in that, to know that he will take the baton and run with it. But it was a very difficult service, and there will always be a remembrance of Pastor Ray. I think this whole church is about him, but we also understand and are looking forward to Pastor Joshua and running with the church and leading us forward to the bigger things that are to come.
Tabang, thank you so much for your time. Well, that was Tabang, who has been a member of this church for more than 20 years. And speaking to some of the congregants who are here, they told me that they will remember, or rather they have described Pastor Ray Macaulay as someone who brought unity in South Africa and in the world at large by using his evangelical work. We know that Pastor Ray will be laid to rest on Saturday. But for now, it's back to you in studio.
Well, thank you very much, Puseletso and Griselda Lewis, giving us a sense of what has come out of the memorial service at the Rhema Bible Church of founder Ray Macaulay. Tributes and legacies being discussed there.